Welcome to Career Tipper Podcast, hosted by Michelle Beatty. The Career Tipper Podcast is a motivational resource that shares career and entrepreneurial tips by industry experts that will help amazing people evolve to their professional best. And now your host, Michelle Beatty.
Episode 12 of the Career Tipper Podcast features Rachel Wilson Thibodeaux. Rachel is the founder and owner of Swag Strategy Solutions. SWAG stands for Strategic Women Achieves Growth. Rachel's signature system, Brand, Sell, Profit, is a brand strategy that addresses generating revenue and profits. She uses it to help her clients connect the dots between building an unforgettable brand and generating cash flow. She enjoys working with visionary, go-getter women entrepreneurs, service-based businesses, and other purpose-driven leaders. Rachel is going to share tips and resources on how professionals can increase their influence and income with LinkedIn. I'm your host, Michelle Beatty, career confidence author and coach. Rachel, welcome to the Career Tipper Podcast.
Thank you. Hello, Michelle.
Hello. Hello. Welcome so much. Thank you for calling in and tuning in from Houston. This is awesome. So I want to find out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to find more out about your journey. Like, of course you're gonna share with everyone tips about LinkedIn and all that. But before we get into that, and you also share details about your new book that just came out, I want to know more about your journey to becoming the swag strategist.
Well, that is a really good question. The whole swag strategist name or moniker, if you will, was born out of the name of my business, Swag Strategy Solutions. And as I like to say, swag is not just a cool name, although it is cool, but it's an acronym that stands for Strategic Women Achieve Growth. So when I thought about it and I thought about the name of my business, I thought, well, I should be the swag strategist. And what that essentially means for me is I kind of look at swag in a different way. And I want my clients, my audience to look at swag a bit differently because sure, it's cool and it's kind of a buzzword, but that's the other reason I came up with an acronym, because I want people to know that swag is also about being strategic and purposeful. So I essentially want to be known as a strategist in that regard.
I love it. And Rachel, I know that you're also a big fan of LinkedIn. I see you posting all the time about LinkedIn, how it's important and how to uncover new clients and profit streams and how to network up. So why are you an advocate of professionals spending dedicated time polishing up their LinkedIn page?
I just think LinkedIn, I know actually LinkedIn is a gold mine. There's so much potential on LinkedIn and it's underutilized. Obviously, it's a social media platform, but LinkedIn is different in that it focuses on professionals. It focuses on business. Everything else out there, the other platforms, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, although people use those platforms for business, they're not specifically designed for that. And LinkedIn is. So I think professionals, business owners, influencers, would-be influencers, or professionals should definitely be using LinkedIn. And the beginning of it, or the most important part, I would say, is the profile, because that's where people are going to go. I mean, that's usually people's first impression of you on LinkedIn.
True. I know in my different professions that I've had, I've used LinkedIn to find jobs. I've used LinkedIn to research candidates. and also just learn more about companies. And it does say a lot by the type of pictures and what you use for your background, and just those grammar slammers out there. Like, it's all important. So what it is. So what are like a few specific things that you think professionals should complete and to position themselves as an expert on LinkedIn? Because like you mentioned, there are people that are influencers or influencers in the making. And just what are some things that you think people should keep in mind as they're promoting their services, their brand on LinkedIn? Because it's not like your average, it's not a Facebook, like you said, it's for business. So what should they keep in mind?
Sure. I would say definitely keep in mind the importance of being visible. I mean, you want, and I know that may almost sound like, okay, that should be a given, but with a lot of people, it's not. A lot of people are on LinkedIn. I mean, there's over 500 million users on LinkedIn now, but a number of those people are not active on LinkedIn and they're not visible. And LinkedIn is an excellent place to be visible. I mean, that is really how you're going to increase your influence, how you're going to get established as a thought leader, increase your credibility. You want to post, you want to show up, essentially. A content strategy is really important. And I know a lot of people talk about content, but it's not enough just to throw up some content just kind of randomly or haphazardly. You want to have a strategy with your content and make sure that you're sharing content that's really relevant, compelling, and really disruptive. I'm really into being disruptive as well, because sometimes you have to kind of virtually grab your audience and shake them a little to get their attention. Now, of course, Michelle, I'm not telling anyone to literally or physically grab someone and shake them, but, I guess it could work, but you have to be careful.
True. You do have to be careful. So when you talk about content strategy a little further, are you like, I know some people have like Motivation Monday, Thoughtful Tuesday, Working Wednesday, like talking about every day of the week, or when they post, it needs to be something specific about their brand, or should they be random and it's just a random news article that they saw and they liked it? Like just a little snippet of what a content strategy is for my listeners to think about it. Novice and seasoned, like how could they switch it up a little bit?
Yeah, I don't think you even have to post every day. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't post every day if that works for you, if that works for your schedule. But I don't want people to come away thinking they have to spend all this time on LinkedIn. Pick, I would say, at least 3 days a week that you commit to, and then determine what do you most want to get across. What are you looking to do? What is your objective? If you're job hunting, for example, determine what job exactly you're looking to get, who you need to connect with to get that job, what's really going to get their attention. And once you have that objective in mind, then you can kind of build your content around that. For business owners, entrepreneurs, you certainly want to look at who your target audience is. Who do you want to connect with? Who do you want? You want their eyeballs on your content. And so it's important to ask yourself, certain questions in addition to who you want to connect with. What do you really want to get across? And so you build from there. You don't want to really be random. You want to have those objectives in mind, and then that will help you to better craft your content. You mentioned a newspaper article. It could certainly be articles. It doesn't always have to be your own content. I'm of the belief, and I like the mix of probably 60-40. I do subscribe to sharing more of your original content. There are some people out there that think the opposite, and I don't really get that. Especially if you're looking to be established as, an expert. I mean, you need to be sharing more of your own content, but you can certainly share others' content that support what you're doing and support your area of expertise. But yeah, I think it can be a combination of articles. I'm big on video. I think you can share video as well. And even if you're not really comfortable with video, there are ways that you can share video and you don't have to be in front of the camera. So whether it's quick tips, whether it's a brief presentation, you can make it work for you.
That's great advice. And I think that it's helpful when you just said 3, like you don't have to do it every day, just a friendly reminder or educating for some, but a reminder for some that it doesn't have to be a daily thing because it doesn't have to be laborious. It's strategic, but you can have fun with it. So I love that share. I think that's great. Now, I know that you just shared content strategy, but is there any other strategies that you find have been very good and helpful that the listeners can keep in mind as they want, when they're using to like increase their presence on LinkedIn through their brand awareness or to attract business?
I will share 2, and one I have to say it doesn't seem to be working as much right now. And so the reason I'm sharing this though is because it worked really well for me, and I'm not convinced that it's like dead. So it could still be a really great strategy, and I'm gonna keep on with it. But that's groups. That's participating in groups, joining groups, groups related again to what you do, your area of expertise, where the people who you want to connect with or you most want to connect with, where they hang out. I certainly had some success with that, with the group strategy, because I mean, that gives you, kind of a different platform. It's kind of a platform within a platform and allows you to connect with more targeted people and kind of build relationships with those people. So that's one. And then 2, I would say reaching out to your existing connections. And I know some people may need to build up their connections. They may not have a lot of connections, but a number of people who I run into and some of my clients have a good number of connections on LinkedIn, but they're not leveraging those connections. They're not reaching out to those people. And when I say reach out, I mean, again, it doesn't have to be time consuming, but have a number in mind. I'm big on numbers, on goals and what have you, whether it's 10, whether it's 15, I mean, have a number in mind of how many people you want to reach out to on LinkedIn, like on a weekly basis. And it doesn't always even have to be all business, just kind of check in with people, see how they're doing. Sometimes, certainly if things have changed for you, like if you've changed jobs or maybe you left your job to focus on your business full time, some of those people you were connected with before, maybe even people from your old job, can be beneficial. I mean, you guys can build a different relationship. They can help you. You could help them. And so just reach out to them. Let them know what you're doing now. Find out what they're doing. But I think that can really be powerful in terms of those one-on-one connections. And I think people don't do that enough.
I agree. I might be guilty of that myself a little bit as far as like being in groups, but I'm not active in all groups. And I was thinking like I need to switch up my groups to where there are ones that I do want to engage with and network and see how not only I can find a lead or connections, but also pay it forward and help people as well. So I like that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Now I know it's stating the obvious.
Sure.
I know it's stating the obvious when people are saying business, the bottom line matters. Like we understand that, but from your perspective, having worked in a variety of businesses, big and small, corporate, small business, what should business professionals contributing to the bottom line keep in mind from building a stronger brand in business?
I would say to first keep in mind really the importance of a brand. And you'll hear me talk a lot about that because I'm just such a big believer in building a strong brand as the foundation of a successful business and a successful bottom line. So I would definitely say never to underestimate the importance of that piece of really creating a solid brand, an unforgettable brand, a brand that resonates with your target audience, because that's going to contribute to your bottom line. That's going to make generating revenue, generating cash flow easier. And then I would also say to really keep in mind how important time is. That, that saying, time is money, it really is true, because if you're not being efficient, if you're wasting time in business, that can really be a problem.
True. Indeed. I totally hear you. Well, let's talk about, since we're saying not wasting time and we want to get on it, you just recently published a book. Congratulations on that.
Yay! Thank you.
This is huge. And it's Brand, Sell, and Profit, which definitely can shorten the gap of anyone, whether small business or a brand, an up and budding brand strategist themselves, that this can help them close that gap of learning and also strengthen their knowledge base to execute stronger, to end any quarter strong, or just accomplish what they want in their business. So how can businesses and solopreneurs be challenged to their next level of professional best from this candid resource that you created? Because you're so personable in it. It's like they're sitting next to you, talking to you. You're very comfortable in your conversation and educating them.
Yeah, Brand, Sell, Profit is all about this 3-step process. It's a system that I came up with, and that really came from my own struggles as a new entrepreneur several years ago. And it's really designed, again, and I don't want to be redundant, but then I kind of do, because I really want to drive this home of how important it is to establish a brand. And, sometimes I get the question, is it more important to brand myself or to brand my business, or the difference between a personal brand and a business brand? And I tend to think it all comes back to your personal brand. I think even big companies, these huge major brands, they started with a personal brand. They started with the founder or with the CEO or the leadership team. If you look at Apple, for example, a lot of Apple's brand it was born out of Steve Jobs' brand. As the co-founder. So I think your personal brand is extremely important. So I really focus on that in the book, and how, once that's in place, once you're clear about that, because sometimes it requires you to get clear about your brand and define your brand. And then once that's done, it makes everything else easier. As businesses, for example, or business owners, that helps your marketing. It makes your marketing easier. It makes your sales easier. As a professional working within an organization, once you have a really solid personal brand, then you have credibility as well. And you are better able to build relationships, those important relationships and lasting relationships. So it kind of just walks you through that and gives you a blueprint of, how to go from the brand to the profitable bottom line.
I love it. And how can it be used as a training tool, like for sales teams or marketing teams? How do you recommend that your book be used as a training tool?
Ooh, well, it definitely helps with sales, because what I find often in sales is that people are trying to sell too soon. They're trying to sell without and it's not always the relationship. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that relationships are not important, because they absolutely are. But sometimes there's not even a rapport in place. There's not really understanding in place before people are trying to sell. So I think my book as a training tool, it really drives home how important it is to make that connection with your target audience or with your ideal client, to make sure that you really understand their needs, they really understand how you can meet those needs, and then you can go from there.
Okay. Now, because brand, sell, profit is your signature system. So how does that work with being consistent for those that want to become a LinkedIn maverick? How do the two sync?
I would say the two sync because LinkedIn is such a great tool to help you build your brand. I mean, there's different ways that you can do that. I'm a big fan and a big advocate of using social media to do that. And LinkedIn in particular is an awesome way to build your brand, especially as a professional, especially as someone who wants to be known as a thought leader, as an expert. Again, because of the type of platform LinkedIn is, the content that you can share on LinkedIn, the people you can connect with on LinkedIn. So I think it fits in really well in terms of helping you build the brand, and then helping you to sell as well. Kind of that whole social selling thing, because you are building those relationships and making really key connections.
True. Connections is everything. Just across the board.
Yeah.
Totally. So your brand, sell, profit system, I'm sure it has taught you so many things about yourself, about business, but what have you learned from working with professionals in different businesses? What has it taught you over the time that you've doing it? Because I think it's awesome that you have your own signature system. And I think it's wonderful that you went through that process, because a lot of people, I think, that are seasoned professionals, I think a lot of people have systems in them that can help other people, but the fact that you follow through, execute it, and you're teaching other people, and that's what you're being known for. What has that taught you from working with others?
Oh boy. I mean, a few things. One thing I would say is you have to tweak and test, and things are not always going to be perfect, nor do they have to be, because a lot of my own brand is about leveraging imperfection. Actually, I think a lot of people are chasing perfection, and they think everything has to be, absolutely perfect, and that's not the case. Brand, sell, profit, it is a system. But it's one that is evolving, and I've learned that as well from working with other people, especially, high-level professionals, go-getter entrepreneurs. I mean, because we seem to be a certain type. Some of us are type A, and, we have really high expectations, and we're high energy, and we want it all. And I mean, you really have to get clear. That's something else that I've really learned. Clarity is extremely important. So, again, that's where defining your brand comes in, defining your message. And, once that's done and when that's in place, it makes all the difference in the world. Because if you're trying to sell before doing that, you're going to struggle more than likely.
I totally agree. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom, your lessons. I think it's so important to give people an opportunity to learn from others' lessons. And I hope that people that do listen to this episode, they have a new perspective about LinkedIn and a new perspective about branding, and they invest in the tools that you created, because you tried them, they're true, and you are passionate about your work. So Rachel, I appreciate you being a guest on the Career Tipper podcast. And before we go, please share your favorite quote or affirmation that keeps you creating career tipping moments.
My favorite quote, it may not be my absolute favorite quote, but it's definitely my favorite business quote, and it's one of my favorite quotes. actually comes from Jeff Bezos, who I sometimes call the internet god, but most people know him as the CEO and founder of Amazon. And that is, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And my affirmation, I have a number of affirmations, but I would say one that really helps me is simply, I will not quit on myself.
Love it. Love it, love it. And how can listeners get in touch with you?
Sure. You can connect with me, or your listeners can connect with me on my website at swagstrategy.com. That's swagstrategy.com. I also love Instagram, so they can hit me up on Instagram at rachel.theswagstrategist. And of course, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn at Rachel W. Thibodeaux. And I know Thibodeaux is a mouthful, so I will just briefly spell it. I'm sure Michelle's going to have it in the notes, but for those of you listening, Thibodeaux is T as in Tom, H as in Henry, I, B as in boy, O, D as in David, E, A, U, X as in X-ray. Yes, I get a lot of practice spelling that.
And you can find me, Michelle Beatty, at careertipper.com and on Instagram at careertipper. Please join our weekly mailing list, email list, and also subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. Thanks for joining us today, and remember to be confidently you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Career Tipper Podcast. We're grateful for our listeners and guests. For more resources about how to evolve to your professional best, share your comments and feedback about this episode and your suggestions for future guests, visit careertipper.com. Until next time, be confidently you.